All right. Hey, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel, everybody. So you're probably wondering why you're looking at the Cape Romano dome homes. So it says they're built by Bob Lee in 1980. He was an oil tycoon, or oil producer, that decided that the area was so secluded and whatnot, he enjoyed it. In fact, one of his neighbors built a house right behind him, the Pyramid House. Well, over time, over a roughly short amount of time, I'm going to go kind of fast forward there to that picture, but let me go to about 2008. So I'll back up to Bob's home there. If you notice the size, he's sitting on a 6-foot ladder. If you can see what he's sitting on right there. So over here, I believe that's a 6-foot ladder, or over here is a 6-foot ladder as well. So these are roughly around 10 feet. So if you look at his size, so these things were, I believe, 10 feet off the ground, give or take. They're 8 feet, if it's 10 feet, you'll kind of get where I'm going with this. And the way that these things were constructed, there was a large amount of land that at one time, this was all, out to here. So in a very, very short time, so 1980 to 2008, so you're looking at 1996, actually, 1980 to 1996. That took the time to get water to the base of the pillars. So let me go back here too. So this took about 1996. So from 1980 to 1996, that's 16 years. So roughly around 20 years to get to that point. And then another 12 years, 1996 to 2008, it took to get to that point. So I want to show you the time frame. So that is 28 years to go from here to where a man is, sitting on a pillar or a ladder, whatever it be, to go 10 feet up in the air. Once you think about that on sea level rise. So 28 years, neighbor's home obviously starting to get destructed and destroyed. And then we hit 2008. So 28 years, let's just call that 30 years. Now, this is what I find as very interesting. So another hurricane has come in and it's brought storm surge. Wilma, Irma. Irma knocked, I believe, let me see here, 2 of the domes, I think, into the water. I think when this thing was first originally built, if we go down to the next picture, so we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 original domes. And you can see people walking underneath of them. So it kind of gives you a size description. So if an average man is 6 foot tall, obviously they're probably about, I don't know, maybe 20 feet away from that. So it doesn't matter. He was driving around tractors and everything else on this island a long time ago when he built them to make this thing happen. And this kind of gives another perspective of the depth. Now, when you're thinking about the Gulf of Mexico and the vastness and the size and the time that it took to go from 1980 to 1996 and to 2008, then actually from 1980 to 2008, we'll call that 30 years to get to the point where it is now. And I'll kind of explain the next photo. This is 2019. So you go from 1980 to 2008, that's almost 30 years. And then from 2008 to 2022, that's about approximately where the domes are to this date. That's just 14 years. So the water has risen. And again, I'll go back to 2008. So 2008. Again, that's roughly around 2008. You see the water here. So we'll come back to that a little bit. See where the shoreline is right there? I can expand that, I think. So 2008, the other photo wasn't dated. So people are still walking. People are still walking underneath these things. So it's approximates. Okay, we're working approximates here. Hurricane Wilma and Irma both did damage to these things. But that's not what filled the Gulf of Mexico. Now I'll kind of get into some of the study that I've done on the Cape Romano homes. So again, now you've risen to the point where these things are underwater. I've always thought that was just the greatest picture, one of the coolest pictures of the Cape Romano homes. That's by Amelia Bridger. I'm guessing that's the photographer. But it's pretty eerie looking at those things. But there they are, and kind of how they stand to this day, or were standing to this day. Under Wikipedia, it says that Hurricane Ian has totally submerged them. I'm pretty sure with storm surge they have. So I'm really curious. I've looked, I've seen, can't go over there because it's no sense in driving over there. You can't get gas right now. But I want to go over there and explore these things and see what they look like now as of this date. The wildlife, the marine life that's underneath these things, I understand is just phenomenal. At any rate, why and how? How did we get to this point where all this water is in the Gulf of Mexico? So the Gulf of Mexico is fed a lot of water from Texas. It's fed a lot of water from rivers and streams, as we know, the Mississippi River. But how and the why? And one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize is how we feed all of the people in our nation. And we use what's the water from the Ogallala Aquifer. And that thing is submerging different areas of California, sinking. My wife and I took a road trip out there years ago. We got to drive around all the farmlands, and we found a telephone pole that says the land was here and such, and the land is now sunk. And this was a telephone pole, so the base of the telephone pole to where they marked it. And I looked at my wife and I was like, man, how could the land sink that much? It's incredible. And the way they grade the land and whatnot, and how it's proved and how it's shown, when you remove all the water from the water table in that area, in that region, the land has nothing else but to be able to sink. It's the only thing that can do. So when we feed all of our people in these large irrigation circles, it's how we feed the masses. And when you start to think about how much water we're using, well, we've been doing something for years under weather modification. And I won't get into it a whole lot because it'll really trip you guys out. I'm going to use my pen to point. So this is massive wastewater treatment plants. So these are wet surface air coolers. I've seen them over in Sarasota. If you look at these towers and how much you can see these massive towers of evaporated water at 85 degrees that goes up into our Earth's atmosphere. It's ground level and goes up into the atmosphere. And it's globally, by the way. This isn't just something that we do here in Florida. It's not something we do it globally. It's under a UN agreement. You can invest in these things in a corporation called Niagara. The companies that are there are traded on NASDAQ. There's patents that show exactly what it's used for. Again, wastewater treatment. And it's just an amazing thing that we've done. Into looking at weather modification, we've been modifying the weather and cloud seeding for a long time. This goes way beyond cloud seeding. And I'd like to actually thank Weather War 101 that actually pointed out what we do. And if you get into John Brennan, the former CIA director, that said one of the things that interested him was SAI, which is stratospheric aerosol injection, and SRMs, which is solar radiation management. Now, when you have a government official, this goes beyond opinions, beliefs, and whatnot. This goes into, again, chasing a House bill, reading a House bill, see how these things are done, and educate yourself more on the end of how we do things and the why we do things, not that it's always so much, a thing against the people. But it is a giant button, or I should say a giant switch we've turned on, and I don't believe that we can turn it off. And why I say that is if all of a sudden you don't have water to feed your people, click on that 1 second. I mean, I want you to think about how much, that's insanity, isn't it? And again, going back to that wet surface air cooler, they're massive. And again, a UN agreement, I believe there's only 7 countries that don't do weather modification. It's everywhere globally. Canada, Mexico, I believe Cuba has them as well, down on the top part of the island. You can see these things kick off. And I use the RAMMB slider from colorado.edu to actually watch the weather. And when you see these things kick off, and you see them kicked off during what we always are told, or on the news they refer to as, natural phenomenons, and you see these things kicking off, putting 85-degree evaporated water up into the atmosphere during, large tornadoes. I'm talking about decimating tornadoes that cause massive flooding. These are a primary reason that's doing a lot of damage. I'm not saying that they turned them on during Ian. I looked for it. I didn't see them turn these things on during Ian. Generally they do. I did see them during Hurricane Irma. I did see them turn on during Hurricane Charlie. Anyways, just absolutely incredible. And do yourself a favor, do due diligence, and seek these things out for yourself. Once you see it, it's kind of hard to turn it off. Once you learn it, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard not to see it. So, anyways, so if you have a Gulf of Mexico, so we'll go back here on a page, a couple pages back. So if you have a Gulf of Mexico that has risen as much it has risen, and you've got, I'm not saying this region in itself, I'm just using this for an example, but your rivers and your lakes and streams, once they fill up with 25 inches of water, and now you have a storm surge that has come one way, so I'm going to use my fingers, has come one way, and your rivers and streams, and we use my pen, are coming this way, and all of a sudden your waters come up this way to a certain point and flooded an area, and then your rain is coming in. The two are almost coming in at a loggerhead, boom, and meeting together. And you have this flow from further up where the water comes down, they're just backing up. And keep moving to Florida is all I can say. Keep coming here and building your dream houses in paradise. This was a swamp. Florida, I grew up in Miami, used to spend a lot of time camping down in Homestead. And when it would rain down there, I mean, where your nice campground was and all that, it would just turn into muck and mud. And I mean, it was a swamp, The Seminoles, that's the Seminole Indians. They were moved here and put here in this region, and they turned something out of it. They survived, but they knew all well, But, we keep on building these ridiculously big houses right on the coast, and we keep on insuring them. And the people that live here that want to insure their houses and go to work, you guys move down here from the northern region, and you go, yay, I'm gonna go build a house down there in paradise, and then you insure it, and then when you get scared and leave out of here, us natives are stuck here having to foot the bill for all you guys that just hit the haul ass button, and our insurances become almost impossible. Our insurances go up, and you're talking about, well, they're estimating between, some news reports right now, between $20 billion to $60 billion in insurance, that's homes, that's automobiles, that's boats, and it's like people stealing stuff from a store. You know, if enough stuff gets stolen, the price of that merchandise has to go up. It's the same with insurance. If that insurance on your home and everybody puts in claims, insurance has no other than to leave the region. And then what do we do then? You know, mortgages. You know, we're fortunate we don't have a mortgage, but we still insure our home. You know, and it still has to be affordable within a certain amount of being reasonable. So, anyways, 2019. That's where the dome homes are now. So in 30 years, the sea level has risen out there. And what it took from 2008 to 2022, which is 14 years. So we'll split it from 1980 to 2008, 28 years. It took to get to the point where you could still walk. So think about that. In 2008, we saw human beings walking. I'll go back to the picture, and so it's roughly around 2008 area. That era right there, 2008. Now let's fast forward just 15 years. 2008. So that is 45 years, right? So 30, yeah, 30. So that's 44 years, 45 years, minus a couple. So let's say 42 years that it's taken that time to come up. That's just 42 years, but it's doubled in 14 years. Think about that. You could walk here, and then 15 years ago, it's taken 15 years to get the water to there. It's doubled in 15 years. That's my study. That's my point. That's proof, you know, just evidence. Anyways, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyways, thanks for watching the videos. As you know, my cancer journey has brought me to the point where wanting to show the kids that we can make a go of this video. I know a lot of it's DIY, but there's so much more to our family. There's so much more to our story. There's so much more to a lot of the things that we see as Floridians, and there's a lot more going on globally. And I'm not telling you to become a woke person and stand behind your keyboard and, you know, be anti-government and stuff like that. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is just educate yourself and look at the rhyme and reasons why. When you look up in the sky and all you see is lines everywhere, every single day, up in, you know, coming from aircraft and whatnot, and you look at it and you got government officials that refer to it as stratospheric aerosol injection and solar radiation management, and the how and the why we're able to do what we do. Go back in time and look at Vietnam. It's a matter of fact, after World War II, we got half of some very, very smart scientists under Project Paperclip, and our Russian counterpart and the Allied forces, they got some very, very smart scientists. We got Werner von Braun in that whole agreement. We've got people in the CIA, running the CIA, that were part of the German, I won't use the other word, but the German regime. So when you split those two people up and you look at what Russia's technology is and you look at what our technology is compared to other countries, we got some very, very smart scientists after World War II. Enter Vietnam. If you don't think that weather modification exists or existed, I mean, just look at Vietnam. You know, we purposely seeded that area to wash out roads. It's documented. It has names. I didn't write them all down. I wanted to really do a story on Cape Romano more than anything. But if you were, Morgan Pass, by the way, Cape Romano's over at Morgan Pass. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So do a little bit of reading, do a little bit of history reading, and again, always look for. Don't listen to anybody. Go read a House bill. Understand how a House bill is written. Look at the law. If you don't find it in the law first, it's probably not going to exist. And everybody goes, "Oh, well, there's a dark government and a, you know, shadow government that runs the world, and you know, everybody talks about a 1%. It's truly not a 1%. If there would be anything, it would be a 0.0 and throw that 0 very, very long to the right, and then put a 1%. 1% of the global population is a lot of people, and they don't run the world. What runs the world is ideas. A lot of those ideas go bad after a while, and maybe we're modifying the weather too much. You know, maybe we need to back off a little bit and to look at it and assess it and go, yes, maybe we are messing things up. I think everybody can drive down the road with all the garbage on the left and right hand side of any roadway, anywhere, town, USA, anywhere, town, almost globally, and say, yeah, we are messing things up. So maybe we just need to care a little bit more. All right, that's it. See ya.